This hour of the Costa Report is brought to you by Dole Food Company, the world's leading producer and distributor of fresh fruits and vegetables.
Welcome to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and thank you for joining me for another 2 hours of straight talk radio. Before we get the show started today, I want to take a moment to thank the folks at Sunstar Media in Monterey, California, for their help on our website. Everyone in business knows that if you want to shut an entire operation down, all you have to do is disable their website. And as we're discovering with the latest news about the Chinese hacking conspiracy, the internet may have made commerce more efficient, but it's also made us a lot more vulnerable because we depend so much on it. And we're not just talking about business, from electronic patient records to patents to military communications. Well, they're all digital now. And so when you've got a situation where your web needs are growing faster than your ability to handle it, like we do here at the Costa Report, well, you just have to reach out to experts to help you. And this week, we were fortunate to have Sunstar Media come to our rescue. So I want to thank them and return the favor by urging businesses large and small who are unhappy with their website to find their way to Sunstar Media just like we did. I promise you'll be happy that you made the call. And now on with the show. Our guest today is not only the former governor of New Jersey, but was also the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency under President Bush. Miss Christine Todd Whitman will be joining us in just a few moments. Whitman was born in New York City and raised in Hunterdon County, New Jersey. She is the descendant of two long-standing Republican families and parents who were very active in New York politics. Whitman is a graduate of Wheaton College, where she earned her degree in government. After graduating, she wasted no time diving headfirst into Nelson Rockefeller's presidential campaign. During the Nixon administration, Whitman served in the Office of Economic Opportunity under Donald Rumsfeld. From 1988 to 1990, she worked as the president of the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities. And by the end of that term, Whitman was ready to throw her own hat into the ring. She ran for the U.S. Senate against Bill Bradley and was defeated. But this is where the story gets interesting. Far from discouraged, it turns out Whitman was just getting ramped up. In 1993, she founded the Committee for Responsible Government, which later became the Republican Leadership Council, a group whose mission was to encourage more moderate positions within the Republican Party. And that same year, she ran for governor and triumphed. She became New Jersey's first female governor. In 1997, Whitman was elected for a second term. Then in 2001, owing to her landmark work in reducing ground-level ozone and cleaning up water pollution in New Jersey, Whitman was appointed by President Bush to head up the EPA. Under her direction, it was the first time the EPA produced a detailed account of the effects of global warming on every state in the union. She's also credited with the National Water Quality Training Program and the reclamation and cleanup of previously contaminated industrial sites. In 2003, Ms. Whitman resigned her post at the EPA. In 2005, Whitman released a book titled It's My Party Too, taking back the Republican Party and bringing the country together again. And in just a moment, we'll find out where she thinks the party has to go following a decisive defeat in last year's presidential election. Today, Whitman operates an energy and environmental consulting company, which has been a strong advocate for nuclear power, and she has a lot to say about why smaller distributed systems hold the answer to America's growing energy needs. It's my pleasure to welcome to the program a leader who knows a thing or two about how to bring both sides of the aisle together to get the job done, Ms. Christine Todd Whitman. Welcome to the program, Ms. Whitman.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Please call me Christy. That's my name.
Okay. All right, Christy. Well, in just a minute, we're going to talk about what we need to do today to get on top of our growing energy needs. But before we do, let's talk about the Republican Party. What went wrong last year, and what does the party need to do during this administration to earn the confidence of the American people again?
Well, they've got to start problem solving. They've got to stop looking at everything through the partisan lens. I mean, they're being outplayed every time you turn around. And what it is a very clever president. I mean, the Democrats are playing politics just as hard as the Republicans. But we have adopted this mindset that if you're not with us 100%, you're against us and you're the enemy. And we've got to get over that. We've got to recognize that there's never an all right and an all wrong way to approach a problem. You've got to allow for some freedom of thinking, which Republicans always used to embrace. And you've got to allow for differences across the country. We're just trying, it seems as if we're in this mode of trying to find people with whom we don't want to associate and then taking a hard and fast line on every kind of negotiating position with the administration, so we get boxed into this perception of being the party of no. We just don't want to do anything.
But I'll tell you, time and time again, though, you see the vote on the floor line up right along party lines. And I tell people, look, the Republicans can't be wrong 100% of the time, and the Democrats can't be wrong 100% of the time. It's statistically impossible.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's what disturbs me about what's happening now. Every single issue on both sides, from both Republicans and Democrats, is being looked at through that partisan prism. It's about what's going to get me another vote in my caucus, another percentage on my reelect, not how do we solve the problem.
You know, but there used to be people that would cross the aisle. Bill Bradley, Bill Richardson on the Democratic side. I mean, they used to go into a Republican leader's office and shut the door and say, explain to me what this is all about, and I'll decide if I'm going to vote for it or not.
And a lot of Republicans were doing the same thing. I mean, you had the Hugh Scotts and the Alan Simpsons.
That's right. So did those have those guys been muted, or have they just been driven out of Washington, D.C.?
They've been frustrated and driven out, and really it's what's happening is you have these special interest groups in primaries, and, you know, at the end of the day, I tell people, if you really want to know what's wrong with our political system, look in the mirror. Because until this last cycle, the average voter turnout in a primary was 10%. But when you don't bother to vote in a primary, you're turning over that very most important decision that determines the choices you have down the road to the most partisan people. Those are the people that turn out in primaries. And we've just got to get over that.
But I'll tell you, I'm on the radio every week, and I get so many emails and so many phone calls from people who say, what difference does it make who I vote for? It's the same outcome. They both say they're going to raise taxes, they raise taxes. They both say they're going to fix this, then it doesn't get fixed. I mean, I think people are just, they're fatigued.
Well, people are frustrated, and I understand that. But the worst thing to do in a democracy is to say, a pox on both your houses, I'm not going to play the game anymore, because then you're just turning it over. As frustrating as it is, you're turning it over to the most extremes. And, you know, you started at the top of the hour. You talked about the Republicans learning the defeat that the Republicans had. I don't think they even see it as a defeat yet. They don't.
Oh, they have to.
Well, one would say that, but one would have hoped that if they had, they would then determine that maybe they ought to move a little bit. I mean, everybody that I've met, when you go out around the country, the average person understands that you can't just tax your way to a balanced budget, and you can't just cut your way. You're going to have to do a bit of both. But somehow, and this is both sides of the aisle in Washington, each side has dug in and said, we'll do it only on the back of taxes, or we'll do it only on the back of cuts. And
yeah, but when you strip all of this away, isn't the solution ultimately a third party? Because early on, I know that you were a supporter of John Huntsman, and you actually came out and told John Huntsman he didn't have a prayer unless he ran as a third party candidate. I think, isn't that the one thing that changes all the dynamics if we had a strong third party?
Well, that's the key, though, strong. We've never been able to do that. What Americans Elect, what you're referring to with John Huntsman, what Americans Elect was all about really was offering credible candidates a third way to get on the ballot so they didn't have to go through the partisan process.
Right.
Because it's the partisan process that forces you to the right or left. And if the Democrats had an open primary, you'd be surprised at how far to the left their dialogue would have gone during the course of the campaign. They certainly are going to practice that, and they are, but in the campaign it would have become very obvious. And so this was saying, look, you stay a Republican, you stay a Democrat, but we'll get you on the ballot, because the biggest thing for a third party, most expensive thing, is getting on the ballot. We'll get you on the ballot, but you have to do some other things. But if you're a Republican, you have to pick a Democrat as your vice president, vice versa, or if you're a registered independent, you have to pick one of the two major parties as a way to try to break the logjam in Washington. But it's also offering people so they're not beholden to the party apparatus, because the party apparatus, when they get to Washington, is so partisan that you can't move.
Well, you said it. It's the key word there is beholding. It's the deals you have to cut along the way that really hamstrung you when you get into office. Now, we have to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we're going to jump into another topic, which I know is near and dear to Whitman's heart, clean energy. You're listening to the Costa Report. Hi, I'm here today with Scott Caraccioli, owner of Caraccioli Cellars. I have to say that every time that I've been by, it has been packed with people. It's more of a social environment.
Yeah, it's really kind of a meeting place as well. In Carmel, a lot of people come and taste a flight of wines before they go to dinner. We have a big screen TV in there. We feed all the games that are local and important, and it definitely becomes a meeting place for people.
So you must get a lot of first dates there, maybe?
You know, we get a lot of first dates, second dates. A lot of times it's couples that do come in, and we see them again after the first time.
I can imagine, and I would suggest that if anyone's thinking about a first date, that might be a really nice place to kick it off. One more time now, where is the tasting room located and what are your hours?
We're located right in the heart of Carmel by the Sea, right on Dolores between Ocean and 7th. We're open daily from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. And on Fridays and Saturdays, we actually open up at 11 and stay open till 10 p.m.
You asked and we listened. The new and improved paperback edition of The Watchman's Rattle is now available in bookstores everywhere, including airports across the country. If you've been hemming and hawing about not having time to go online or pick up a copy, well, now you don't have any excuses. Find out why government gridlock, terrorism, epidemic obesity, crime on Wall Street, even problems with education and healthcare have an evolutionary basis to them. Because when you do, you'll never look at our problems the same way. So pick up the freshly printed paperback edition of The Watchman's Rattle. Don't wait. Do it now. Give yourself a real reason to feel optimistic. That's The Watchman's Rattle, available everywhere you are.
Props Restaurant and Lounge is open now at the Watsonville Airport. That's right. There's a brand new watering hole ready to serve you 7 days a week for lunch and dinner, located right at the Watsonville Airport. Easy to reach, and what a wonderful destination it is. Prime rib special every Wednesday night. What a bargain at only $14. Steak, seafood, pasta dishes, a terrific burger, all kinds of wonderful things, plus great appetizers, specialty burgers. There's even a kids menu and small plates after 5 p.m. Happy hour Monday through Friday, 3 to 6. So visit Props at the airport. You just take the Airport Boulevard exit off of Highway 1. When you get to Aviation Way, hang a left and you'll find 100 Aviation Way. It's the airport building, and in it is Props Restaurant. Go, eat, drink, and enjoy. Props Restaurant and Lounge is open now at the Watsonville Airport. Tell them Charlie sent you.
Tune in to the Sentinel Radio program Saturday morning at 8 a.m. right here on AM 1080 KSCO. Brought to you by First Church of Christ Scientist Monterey. Come into our Christian Science community reading room and bookstore and find comfort from the challenges you're facing. We have the resources that will connect you with your God-given substance. Find help now. Our address is 780 Abrego Street in Monterey. Reach out for this help today. Come in and visit or call 831-372-5076. 372-5076.
Ranger Station.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting in the forest. 1 second, I'm having a smoke. Next thing I know, I'm face-to-face with Smokey Bear.
Wow.
And he told me it only takes one spark to start a wildfire.
Did you know 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans?
I had no idea.
That's why Smokey's famous and you're not. If you see someone in danger of starting a wildfire, step in and make a difference. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and my guest today is former governor of New Jersey and administrator of the EPA, Christy Todd Whitman. And before the break, we were talking a little bit about what the Republican Party needs to learn and do to have a strong comeback in another few years. So now let's take a step back from politics and talk about energy. I'm guessing here, but I have to believe that when physicist Steve Chu was appointed Secretary of Energy, you had high hopes that America's stalled nuclear program would kick it into high gear. So what happened there?
Well, that's been a problem with the administration right along. They talk about it a lot. They certainly support it in concept, but that we haven't had much in the way of action, which is very frustrating because we're at a point where we're looking at a 22% increase in power demand by 2035. That's tomorrow, as far as the utility is concerned, because of the size of the investment that has to be made. And when we look at it, you say, look, we're not going to we can do better with conservation, and we must do better with conservation. We can and must do better with the renewables, with solar, with wind, with hydropower, but they're not going to get us to where we need to be to make sure that we have safe, affordable, reliable power, because all of those renewables require base power for when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing. And so when you're back to base power, your choices are fossil fuels. And it's a question it's not that nuclear power is the answer, but it's part of an overall intelligent portfolio, I believe. And so it was very disappointing not to see more action on this. As I say, they talked a lot about it, but not a lot was done.
Well, I thought it was a great signal that they brought in a nuclear physicist, Steve Chu. That was a brave move.
Well, it was. Just not much happened, and that's the frustration that I think a lot of us share. It's great to bring in somebody who understands the issues and is committed, but if they're not going to have the freedom to be able to make the moves that are necessary, then it's all for naught.
Well, now, it's no secret that many of the nuclear power plants we rely on have been operating long past periods of time that they were designed for. And the NRC hasn't had much choice but to require upgrades and then extend the licenses to operate. Most of these plants were designed with maybe a 30-year life cycle in mind. And since we've sat on issuing licenses to build new ones, well, we don't have any to replace the plants which are overdue to be retired. Isn't that right?
Well, there are 4 new nuclear reactors being built right now in the country, the first time since 1970 that we've seen this happen, 2 in Georgia and 2 in South Carolina. So there is something happening, and the utilities are moving forward on this. The price of natural gas has slowed it down because that's become so cheap, but we've been there before, and we've seen those highs and lows. So,
But this takes a long time. These don't pop up overnight.
Oh, no, it takes 8 to 10 years to bring one online, which is why I say what we need more than anything is an energy policy. And again, it's one of those things that we don't have. Congress hasn't acted on it. We haven't got one. And so the signals haven't been strong as to where we want to go. And is this an investment that people want to make? Because they remember back in 1970 when we suddenly said, we're out of the business. We're not going to do anything with nuclear. And so that was people stopped investing in new technology, investing in recycling. We can recycle and reprocess those spent rods and reduce the amount of fuel you have to worry about storing dramatically. But we're not at the cusp of any of that because we've gotten out of the business, and it's a jobs program as much as anything.
Now, you've been a proponent of moving away from big centralized nuclear power plants to decentralized smaller modules. Is that right?
Well, I think that's definitely going to be part of it. We're going to need a little bit of both, but yes, I think there's a lot of interest and a lot of potential for the small modular reactors.
We'll talk to our audience a little bit about how that would work. What do these small modules look like, and why are they beneficial?
Well, the thing about them is they can be made standardized. They can be made inside. They can be put in place and you turn on the switch. It doesn't take a whole lot. They don't take up a big footprint. And you can size them so that they do one town, so they do, a city. They do a particular, if it's an industrial area, they can do that. You can scale them up and down. We're just beginning to really see the potential, how they can be used. And they're using a new technology, so again, your spent rods are what you have to deal with in spent fuel is much less. And they are very efficient. Of course, nuclear is very efficient. The nuclear reactors operate at over 90% efficiency, so they, in and of themselves, are efficient. But the new ones are looking to be even more efficient.
So are we looking at turnkey appliance types of nuclear facilities that are smaller and might furnish all the energy needs for a small village or town?
Yeah. That's exactly what we're looking at. I was just up in Alaska last month, and one of the things they were saying is a small modular reactor could be the savior for a lot of the rural areas in Alaska that's not easy to get to. They don't have transmission lines, and this is a way to get them the kind of power they need to live quality lives.
And how close are we to doing that? And is that part of the non-existent energy policy?
Yeah, it's pretty much part of the non-existent energy policy at this point, although in fairness, the Department of Energy has been releasing funds now for R&D for the small modular reactors. Now, other countries have been doing this now, and they're starting to gear them up and starting to actually get them online, but we're behind that.
Well, now the critics agree that these smaller distributed facilities, they don't require air-assisted cooling. They don't discharge as much heat into bodies of water. But there still seems to be a little bit of debate about whether they could be built cost-effectively and also what the overall impact to the environment would be as you distributed more and more of these. Is that right?
Well, the overall impact to the environment, first of all, let me deal with that one, is going to be good, because nuclear is the only form of base power that releases no greenhouse gases or other regulated pollutants while it's producing power. And it takes such a small amount of uranium to produce power that's why they're so highly efficient. And actually on a per kilowatt basis, even now, they are among the lowest, least costly forms of power that we have. So they are something that the small modular reactors that offer a great deal of potential, particularly when you look at it from the environmental point of view. I co-chair something, or I was co-chairing, now I'm the chair of something called Case Energy Coalition, and my co-chair for the first 6 years was Dr. Patrick Moore, who was one of the co-founders of Greenpeace. Greenpeace didn't like him much after he took it on, but he said, look, what we were against was nuclear weapons, not nuclear power. And if we care about climate change, if we care about air pollution, then nuclear should be part of the answer, not the sole answer, not walk away from everything else, but let's get some facts out there so people can make informed decisions and understand just what nuclear has provided to us up to this point.
But we are talking about the effects of the environment to the environment when the plant is operating. But we also have to look at the safety issues when we start spreading nuclear spent rods around. I mean, even if we can diminish the impact of those rods and the life of the radioactive material, we're still stockpiling in numbers of locations spent rods.
Well, we are today. We have 104 nuclear reactors, and 95 of them use different technologies, and it's spread across the country, and not in 104 sites, but over 90 sites. And that's another place where Congress has got to act. Congress said, they made the determination, we need a national repository. They indicated that it was Yucca Mountain in Nevada. We, as taxpayers, have been spending literally tens of thousands, billions of dollars to get Yucca Mountain ready, but with Harry Reid as head of the Senate, it's not going to happen.
Well, yeah, I think they pulled the license on that. I'm sorry, we have to take another break, and when we come back, let's find out if nuclear energy is really clean energy after all. More from Miss Whitman when we return. You're listening to the Costa Report.
Just about everyone knows that fruits and vegetables are good for our health, but not everyone knows how to build a healthier plate. Hi, I'm Amy Tobin, a cookbook author and culinary expert. For each meal, nutrition experts recommend filling half of your plate with fruits and veggies. Whether it's fresh berries with your breakfast cereal, a wrap filled with your favorite roasted vegetables for lunch, or a medley of crunchy veggies for a pre-dinner nibble, Dole provides the freshest and highest quality produce available. When you load up on all the nutritional good stuff, you give your meal an instant boost of color, flavor, and texture, plus vitamins and minerals and fiber. Everything your body needs to succeed. For nutritional inspiration and to learn more about Dole's fresh, whole, and cut vegetables and a full line of berries, visit Dole.com. With Dole as your partner in health, the possibilities are endless. Visit Dole.com.
Ladies, are you tired of fine lines and wrinkles on your face and want to get rid of them? Then let me tell you about the all-natural Esotique Collagen Builder. Esotique is a luxurious anti-wrinkle treatment from Chamonix, guaranteed to give you less fine lines and wrinkles and take years off your appearance. And it works. I've been using Esotique for a couple of months now, and the results are nothing short of amazing. Even my deepest wrinkles are softening and the fine lines just seem to be fading away. If you've never experienced the amazing luxury of Esotique, here's a simple offer. Call now and get Esotique at half price. That's it. Nothing else to buy. The best wrinkle cream anywhere for half price. Call 800-480-6737. 800-480-6737 and ask for the KSCO half-price Esotique special. 800-480-6737. 800-480-6737.
Hey folks, are you stressed out lately? Stressed out about your job? Stressed out about your family? Stressed out about your relationships? Well, sorry, I can't help you there. But if you're stressed out about your real estate situation, maybe I can help you. I'm Randy Turnquist, longtime local resident and California realtor. Don't hide your real estate problems and just hope they'll get better by themselves. You need the information and the knowledge to make intelligent decisions and take action. If you'd like a private conversation about your real estate situation, give me a call at 477-3173. If you're stressed out about your real estate situation, I may have a solution for you. Remember, talk is free, and who knows, I may be able to help. So if you'd like a private conversation, give my private phone line a call at 477-3173. Don't hide your real estate problems and just hope they'll get better by themselves. Give me a call at 477-3173.
But T, we're going to do 25 now, 50 now, 75, we're going to go 300, 325, 350, 375, we're going to go 400, 425, 450. Imagine finding an old painting or chair or fishing lure while rummaging through the attic. Is it junk or is it hidden treasure? Hello, I'm Rob Slowinski of Slowinski Auctions and Appraisers in Scotts Valley. Before you throw that item out, you better make certain it's not hidden treasure, and the way to do that is to join me at 2 p.m. Saturday afternoon here at KSCO for Hidden Treasures Radio Show. Put that item on the table in front of you and call the show. We'll figure out what that item is, where it came from, what it's worth, give or take, so don't throw that item out. Instead, join me, Rob Slowinski of Slowinski Auction Company, Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. for Hidden Treasures Radio Show. Is it junk or is it hidden treasure?
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and my guest today is former governor of New Jersey and administrator of the EPA, Todd Whitman. And before we went to break, we were talking about what to do with radioactive waste material, which is being produced by nuclear power plants today. The government has pulled the plug on the central storage facility at Yucca Mountain. So as I understand it, stockpiles of nuclear waste are building up month after month at some nuclear power plants with no long-term plan for what to do with all of this waste. So here's my question. If the plan to bury nuclear waste is in the bowels of the earth, are we just trading polluting the air with polluting the ground? I mean, aren't we doing that kick the can down the road thing?
Fair question. But let me just outline the parameters here. If you took all the spent rods we have from the 104 nuclear reactors that have been operating for some 50 years, you'd fill up one football field to the height of the goalposts. So we're not talking about something the size of Texas, which some people think when they think about it. And what you've got in there is you've got pellets. You don't have gas and you don't have a liquid. Now, it's not something you ever want to breach, but if it does, it's not going to be a mushroom cloud the way people think of it. If you reprocess, using technologies that they've been using in France, they've used in Japan, you can reduce the fissionable material. Let me back up. There's 95 to 97% fissionable material, unused energy left in those rods. If you reduce that, if you reprocess that, you can get down to 4 to 5%. Mm-hmm. So again, you're talking about a much smaller amount. And the requirements, when I was at EPA, one of the decisions that we had was what standard for protection of water would we use for Yucca Mountain. And we could have taken groundwater standards or drinking water being more protective. And we took drinking water because we believed, and we still do, that the kinds of protections that have been built into Yucca Mountain mean that they can maintain that. And they can maintain a drinking water standard for, and this, of course, is ridiculous, but 10,000 years. That's what you're required to be able to certify, which, of course, you don't know what's going to happen in 10 years, much less 10,000, but that's the way the law was written.
We don't seem to know what's going to happen in 10 weeks.
I know. It's ridiculous, but that's the way they wrote the law. So what
happened with Yucca Mountain?
Well, it is a sort of a matter of faith for those who are from Nevada that you will not have it there. And, of course, Harry Reid is the leader of the Senate, the Democrat leader of the Senate, and they control the Senate. And he has said no way, no how, and the president's not going to, understandably. It's his leader of his party. He needs him for a lot of other things. So what they did is he had the Department of Energy, actually the president appointed a commission to take a look at what the alternatives were, and they came back with a report that basically said, let's do it in a couple of places. And there are some towns that have said, bring it on, we'll take it. But things haven't moved very far.
Well, I'll tell you, all the states are so beaten down on their budgets, and they're so desperate that I'm sure if you wave a nice, juicy contract and some jobs in front of them, you're going to get any number of states competing for the opportunity to stockpile nuclear waste in their backyard, don't you think?
Well, that's part of it. But the point here is that it can be done safely. We need to do a better job. There are no two ways about it. This isn't acceptable to have them stored all across the country. We transport nuclear waste all around the country every day because, of course, you've got a lot of nuclear waste from the Navy that we have, from hospitals. There's nuclear waste being produced all the time, and it's being done safely. But that's still not what you want.
And by the way, how long did it take them to get Yucca Mountain to this state? To this condition? That wasn't something that happened overnight either. It was practically like building a nuclear power plant.
Oh, yeah. No, it's been a major, major undertaking, which is why, to my mind, it's so senseless to walk away from it.
It is, because even if they award a contract to another state right now and they get busy working on it, that's not something that's going to happen in the next decade, is it?
No, it won't. Right now, the reactors that almost every nuclear reactor plant has had to go back in to have their holding. They're either, right now, nuclear rods are stored in underground holding tanks in water or above ground heavily reinforced concrete bunkers. And they've all been back in for recertification of those because their time frame, as you said, even on the reactors, have run out. And to date, they've all been recertified. And that's not because the Nuclear Regulatory Commission takes this lightly. I mean, they've been very, very tough on nuclear reactors, as frankly we want them to be, and they're constantly upgrading the standards to which these reactors have to get.
Well, we had Chairman Yatsko on the program here, and he, to talk about one of the new standards they put in, which was that the new nuclear facilities have to be able to withstand an airplane crashing into them.
Right.
And I was thinking about that, and I thought, how many of the 104 old plants that we keep recertifying have that capability, and yet the stockpiles of spent rods are being stored at these 104 facilities? I mean, that's a bit of a security risk, isn't it?
It is and it isn't, because, again, they have been required to constantly upgrade, so they've been upgrading them, and they are now very reinforced, and they've done the models. Fortunately, no one's taken the plane, so they haven't tried that, but they've done the modeling, computer modeling, that says that you could drive a fully loaded plane into them and you wouldn't have damage. The way nuclear power is produced, it's not the way you'd think of a nuclear weapon. I mean, first of all, you can't take a nuclear rod and just put it in a nuclear weapon. It's a different process.
Right.
So that takes time. It doesn't make it as attractive a target. And because it is pellets, and because they're so heavily protected, you could drive a plane and you're not going to get a mushroom cloud. You're not going to get something that is going to, what we saw in the China Syndrome in that movie that so many people use as their kind of benchmark.
Right, it terrified a whole nation.
Oh, yeah. Well, you just had Chernobyl. In fairness, you just had Chernobyl.
Honestly, that movie did as much to set back our nuclear program as anything else.
Oh, yeah, no, it did.
Jack Lemmon, if he just hadn't been such a good actor. So let me ask you a different question. We've got other forms of clean energy that don't produce a toxic substance like spent rods. What's happened? I mean, these, solar energy has been around since I was in high school. We just can't seem to get liftoff.
I know. It's been a question of pricing because it's been so costly, and again, because they need backup base power. And we haven't been investing. Now we started to invest in them, but without the government investment, we've just, for instance, in our farm in New Jersey, put in solar. And without the SRECs, which is our New Jersey form of incentive to companies to put it in, it wouldn't have it would have taken you so long to amortize the investment that it was just would have been too expensive to.
Well, here's where I get confused, and maybe you can straighten me out. All the brouhaha over Solyndra was that the Chinese had dropped the prices on solar panels to the point where Solyndra couldn't make any money, and that the U.S. is out of the solar panel business because the Chinese can manufacture and produce cheaper than we can ever get around to doing. If that's true, you would have thought that there would have been a mass conversion over to solar. But everybody I'm talking to goes, well, it's not cost effective. Now, how can we on one side say that the Chinese have dropped the price out of the bottom of the price, and on the other hand say it's too expensive?
Well, because the companies, they've dropped the price, have to make it up somewhere, because they've dropped the price in a finished solar panel that they want to import to this country, not on the precious metals that are needed, the rare earth metals that are needed to produce the panels. Those are very expensive, and China has pretty much a lock on those, so that that's why you see the price going up. And again, it's something that we can and will do better. They will become more efficient as well. They're big. You've got to
Oh, yeah, but I've been hearing that for 30 years.
I know.
That the price is going to come down any moment now.
Well, I don't think the price is going to come down any moment now until we get to that critical mass.
And yet we have all these clean energy solutions that if we could just get over the economic models that we insist on applying to them, we have the technology. I just wonder if we've got the will.
We've had it for a long time, and I think you've hit on it. It's the will. It's the willingness to say this is where we want to see ourselves going, because, I get so frustrated when I hear the dialogue in Washington, particularly from the Republicans, saying they want to do away with the Environmental Protection Agency. They don't want to see any kind of environmental impact statements done on new technologies, on mining and things like that. And you want to hold up your hand and say, no, wait a minute. That agency was established in 1970 because rivers were spontaneously combusting. People were going into the hospital every summer and dying because of bad air quality, and we were turning land into a dump.
Well, you make a good point. We have very short memories. Now, we have to take our last break, and when we return, we'll find out what our energy policy has to do with national security and new jobs. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Costa Report. Hi, I'm here today with Scott Caraccioli, owner of Caraccioli Cellars. What's the first thing folks say when they walk into your tasting room in downtown Carmel?
It's not really a typical tasting room that people expect, especially in Carmel. It's a little bit updated, has a little bit more of a modern feel, but still definitely has that cellar quality and old world touch that Carmel exudes.
And it really shows. It's a very sort of romantic and sexy environment.
We had a great interior designer and architect, Cy Teller, that brought everything together and delivering something a little bit different than the prototypical tasting room you walk into.
And one more time now, where is the tasting room located and what are your hours?
We're located right in the heart of Carmel by the Sea, right on Dolores between Ocean and 7th. We're open daily from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. And on Fridays and Saturdays, we actually open up at 11 and stay open till 10 p.m.
Now, here's something to think about. If we're having the same problems in the United States that every other country is struggling with, then are these problems really domestic issues? At what point do we wake up and say, hey, if it's happening to everyone, it means it's happening to our species? That's why I'm asking you to read The Watchman's Rattle, because when you do, you'll see that the very idea that there are domestic and international threats is a myth. All of the problems we face today, problems like unemployment, debt, climate change, terrorism, nuclear proliferation, even the spread of pandemic viruses involve other nations. So please take a moment to pick up The Watchman's Rattle. It's a perspective you'll not find anywhere else, and it offers us solutions you won't find anywhere else. Get The Watchman's Rattle. Do it now. You'll be glad you did.
Listen. Those are actual sounds of electrical wires shorting out behind the walls of Central Coast homes. Though you can't hear arcing behind your walls, JM Electric Current Safe Home Inspection Equipment can hear them for you. To know if you should call JM Electric for a free electrical safety assessment, answer this question from JM Electric's Chris Jensen.
Are your smoke detectors more than 10 years old? If yes, it's time to replace them. Properly installed and maintained smoke detectors are the only thing in your home that can alert you to a fire 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Why trust your life on expired detectors?
If you answered yes to Chris Jensen's question, something may be buzzing in your walls. To discover how at risk your home might be, take JM Electric's home electrical safety test at jmelectric.com. In a few short minutes, you'll know how at risk your home is to electrical problems. Take the test right now at jmelectric.com or give JM Electric a call at 422-7819 and ask for the free, no-obligation home electrical safety assessment.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037, so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman, something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cold time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and our guest today is Todd Whitman. And before the break, we were talking about the fact that we have been waiting for decades for solar and wind technology to become cost effective. Now, I think everybody understands that when we ship dollars to the Middle East in exchange for oil, some of those dollars get into the hands of anti-American groups. And so when we talk about energy, aren't we really talking about a matter of national security? By becoming energy independent, don't we cut off money which is now aiding our enemies?
Absolutely. There's no question about that. I mean, energy independence is probably not a place we'll ever get, only because energy is fungible and it moves around. But to be less dependent on countries that want to see us defeated, want to see us off the face of the earth, absolutely. It would change the way we look at our international responsibilities. It is very much something that we need to take seriously as a part of national security and think about it that way.
So one of the reasons I think we don't have an energy policy, a cohesive energy policy, and we tend to deal with it as one-offs, which is the worst possible thing we could do in a dynamically changing environment, is that energy is one of these subjects that crosses over into the EPA, into national security issues. It seems to just cross into every department of the government, doesn't it? Right into the Department of Forestry.
It does. It affects everything. But, Rebecca, that's one of the reasons why Congress should stand up and do something. I mean, we're trying to do it now, as you point out, in a piecemeal effect. EPA promulgates regulations. The Department of Energy is doing its thing. It's not coordinated, and it's not getting us. We're not getting the push behind a focus that will actually get us to where we need to be.
But we're so bad at these kinds of messy problems in D.C. We don't like the ones that involve the EPA, National Security, Department of Forestry. Every department really gets affected by a cohesive energy policy. And we can't even get two parties to vote on something as basic as a budget.
Well, you're speaking to the choir. I am enormously frustrated by it, and that's why I support another group called No Labels, which is a citizens movement to be in constant contact with our legislators saying, get off it, guys. We've got to solve these problems. We are going to support you, Congressman or Senator, if you reach out across the aisle. We're going to be there for you, and that's really the message that has to get to them. They hear so much from those who want to be focused on one issue or only take one position. They say, we're going to get you. If you talk to Democrats, we're going to run somebody against you in the primary. We're not going to give you, leadership will say, we're not going to give you the kind of committee assignments you want. They need to hear from the other side, those of us who will say, no, this is exactly what we want you to do.
Well, there we go. There's that two-party system again.
Yep. Well, it's just like, you saw it in New Jersey after Sandy during the campaign when our governor, Chris Christie, embraced the president. Well, I'm sorry. He's governor of the state of New Jersey. We were in that terrible situation. The president had been enormously supportive, and he also held the keys to the kingdom. Chris Christie was doing exactly what the citizens of New Jersey elected him to do, being governor, not being a Republican.
Oh, he's paying for it now.
I know, and it just is mindless to me that people say that this was a bad thing. This is what you're supposed to do, what we want our elected officials to do. Not represent a party, represent us.
That's absolutely right. Now, energy independence is a win-win-win situation because we also create jobs and we convert the unemployed Americans into taxpayers, which in turn reduces the demand for social services and helps bring the deficit down. So what's the solution here? I mean, I'm a big advocate for we need a strong third party, and you get that from our discussion today. But aside from that, what can citizens do? Do they need to join these organizations? Do they need to work through their congressmen? I mean, these things, they just, I have so many people say, look, I write editorials, I contact my congressman, I join these groups. Nothing works. What can you say to those folks to get them inspired and motivated and moving again?
I know. I've been trying to figure out how to do that now for a number of years. I think no labels is probably as good a way to go as any because they make it extremely easy for you to be in contact. They give you all the information. They tell you what's going on a daily basis. They tell you what issues are being avoided, who's talking to whom. And that makes it, with today's technology, there's really no excuse for sitting back and saying, I'm not going to do this. And, there was a perfect example. It goes back a ways now, but the Terry Schiavo case, which was, that horrible case in Florida where a woman had been on life support for a number of years and it wasn't going anywhere. Her husband said this is not how she wanted to live. Her family said, no, you can't disconnect her. Went through all the courts in Florida, suddenly got it to the federal level. And you had a vote. Within 3 days, Congress voted to intervene in the case and say she could not be disconnected. And the president cut a vacation short to come back and sign the legislation to do that. The next day, depending on which poll you looked at, between 70 and 80% of the American people, no matter how they felt about disconnecting her, said the federal government had absolutely no business getting involved in this. Why did that happen? Because the 20 or 30% who were the passionate ones who said this is terrible, this is murder, were in constant contact. They deluged their legislators saying you can't do this, to the point that the emails, the telephone calls, the faxes were running 70% in favor of congressional intervention, and yet when you did a poll of the people in general, it was just the flip.
Now, you bring up a great case, but that's a specific incident where it's sort of up or down. Disconnect, the right to die or not the right to die. But when we're talking about not having a national cohesive energy policy at all, not having a budget, those kinds of things, how do you complain about that to a congressman?
My only point is that if you do get in touch with them, if you may get, and I've seen it happen, where you write a letter saying, Pete's sakes, you got to do a budget, and you get a nice response back saying, we're so glad you're interested in education. It's frustrating. But you know what? Even if it's at the level of the Congress and they don't read all their own mail, they don't answer all their telephones, somebody's doing that for them. And they're telling them what people are thinking, what their constituents want. And it won't always change their vote, but it might. And it certainly changes the way they play.
So now I know, and I know that our audience is picking this up, you continue to work for the American people from the outside in. So tell us a little bit about what it's going to take to get you to go to Washington and straighten up the mess there.
Well, my problem is I'm a Republican, and they don't consider me one.
Well, if they have any prayer in the next presidential election, they better start listening to you. Because you've been sounding the drum that they are leaving behind the vast majority of the American people. You've been sounding that drum for quite a while, for well over a decade now, and they haven't been listening to you. In fact, I can't even believe, and I'm not going to go there on the Sarah Palin case. I was going, why didn't they get Christy Todd Whitman? Well, like, somebody bring her up on that stage and let her talk.
At some point, I think we've got a lot of good people out there, and there are a lot of frustrated people.
We don't have people that can work on both sides of the aisle, and you have proven you can do that.
Well, I'm hoping there are more and more, and frankly, as you look at the governors, that's really where you find the people who want to do that, because governors have to deliver. And you don't deliver for a Republican or Democrat. You deliver for your constituents. So I think that's where
There is no better training ground for the presidency, in my view, than being a governor. Because you are the CEO of a state, and that's just a miniature version of the United States. I mean, you're going to have people from all ideologies, all backgrounds, all agendas.
Exactly.
Right? And you've got to figure out how to bring everyone together and get something done.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. That's what it takes. And we have people out there who can do it. We just need to get behind them. Because you know what? Again, to your point of people get frustrated. They get frustrated. They say how terrible Congress is, but they keep reelecting their congressperson. We keep sending them back.
I'm sorry. It's not funny, but it's funny. Yes, we do keep doing that. So we're almost out of time. But before I let you go, tell our listeners where they can go to get more information and can stay in touch with you. Do you have a website?
Well, it would be through the Whitman Strategy Group. That's whitmanstrategygroup.com. That's our website. We work on environment and energy issues.
And you have a blog that you post there as well. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's our program for today. But before we say goodbye, let me take a moment to thank you for your service to the American people. And I do hope you consider getting back in there in Washington, D.C. and representing the thinking people that don't care which side of the aisle a good idea comes from. Please come back soon.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
If your station is leaving us after the first hour, next week I go where no host has ever gone before. Many of you know our guest is Captain Kirk, TJ Hooker, Denny Crane, and even the Priceline negotiator. The one and only William Shatner will be with us to talk about whether internet anonymity has provided a platform for racists, sexists, homophobics, and other haters. Don't miss a frank and provocative conversation with William Shatner next week, right here on your favorite weekly news program. Now stay tuned for the second hour of the Costa Report when we take your calls and find out what's on your mind this week.
Hi, I'm Judy Profeta, owner, broker, and active real estate agent of Alon Pennell Realtors, a locally owned real estate company. We've operated on the peninsula for over 16 years, currently located on the corner of Ocean and Dolores and Junipero between 5th and 6th in downtown Carmel. We serve the Monterey Peninsula, focusing on Carmel, Pebble Beach, and the Carmel Valley. Our firm of about 50 agents represents everything from Carmel Cottages to Pebble Beach Estates and oceanfront properties to Valley Vineyards. We are actually known for our vast inventory of fine properties. Drop by and see us, or better yet, visit our website at apr-carmel.com. That's apr-carmel.com. Or you can give us a call at 831-622-1040 and make sure you tell them Judy sent me.
Hi, I'm Andy, the produce manager at Ben Lomond Market. This week we are featuring California head lettuce, 88 cents each, and California small navel oranges, 58 cents a pound. From Mexico, we have English cucumbers, 98 cents each, and large Hass avocados, 4 for $5. From Washington, we are featuring small Fuji apples, 99 cents a pound. And from Chile, we have large black plums, $1.99 a pound. In organics, we are featuring red leaf or green leaf lettuce, $1.19 each, fresh leeks, $1.99 a pound, and Fuji apples, $1.49 a pound. We also have some great weekend specials, large artichokes, 2 for $5, and cauliflower, 2 for $4, and green bell peppers, 99 cents a pound. So come, check out our great selection of fresh produce at Ben Lomond Market.
Red Hot News Talk, AM 1080, KSCO Santa Cruz.